Knights and dames, it is now my distinct pleasure, my honor, to present to you, the esteemed Grand Prior 22 of the Grand Priory of the United States of America, His Excellency, Jeffrey Peter Agnes.
Thank you. Don't like that glory stuff. I'm a Templar. But thank you. Okay, first off, just thank you. Thank you for the honor and the onus of being your Grand Prior. And I'm going to get into a couple of thank yous a little bit later, but first, what I really want to do tonight, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, and I'm actually getting a little bit better at that. I want to talk to two groups of people. One is the knights that just became knights, and one is the guests out there who are just joining us for the first time, just went to our CNI, and are here tonight. And I want to answer two questions. For the knights, what have I just done? And for the guests, why did you just do that? And I think those are the two questions that are hanging out there right now. And first I want to start with the guests. There's a lot of charities. There's a lot of charitable organizations that you can go to affect your community. A lot of really good ones, and our local priories are going to hundreds of them. And that's a great thing. But I always say, if you want to change your community, there's lots of options. If you want to change the world, become a Templar. Now, that sounds grandiose, braggadocious, all of those ocious words. But as Chief Ten Bears said to outlaw Josie Wales, there is iron in those words. And yes, Nico, I just quoted the outlaw Josie Wales. Live with it, son. I know I'm going to catch some crap for that. But why us? Okay, why us? And why do I say that? And why do I say there's iron in those words? Well, we are the modern Knights Templar. It used to be a question about that. There's lots of Templar organizations out there, but now in the blogs and on the net and in articles everywhere, they are now quoting us as the modern Knights Templar. SMOTJ, they are quoting as the modern Knights Templar. So we have to understand that and believe it and work with it. You know, we had an article in the Smithsonian about us a while back, and it didn't say exactly what we wanted it to say. But what it did do is it got the word out there that there are modern Knights Templar, and not only that, but they are us. But why us? There's lots of different organizations that call themselves Knights Templar. Well, John DiGilio started explaining that at the Grand Council meeting, but the guests out there weren't at the Grand Council meeting. So just a little bit about that. First off, we are focused on today. Lots of those Templar organizations are focused on 900 years ago. We are focused on being Templars today. That speaks to people. We are ecumenical, meaning that we are non-denominational. And what that means is that by necessity, we have to focus on those things that bring us together, not those things that rip us apart. And that thing that brings us together is very simple. It's that binding love of Jesus Christ. That's what brings us together. And the interesting thing about that is that simplicity of love is there in every single religion. Not just every Christian religion, but it's there in every single religion. And what's important about that is, as John was telling you, we are the only Templar organization that is a non-governmental organization with special consultative status at all 3 locations of the UN. Now, some of you guests probably didn't know that, but that's the fact. We are there, we have a seat at the UN. And what we do with that seat, we advocate for human rights, we advocate for women's rights, we advocate for water rights, and yes, that's a very big thing internationally. But we also are peacekeepers. We are bridge builders and peacekeepers, and the reason we can be that is because we are trusted by all 3 of the major Abrahamic religions out there. Not just Christianity, but Judaism and Islam. They all trust us. And why? Because we focus on that bonding love of Jesus Christ, which is available in their religions, and we don't talk about excluding, we talk about including. And that attitude that we bring to the table is very valuable for governments that fail in negotiations with religious matters. They look to us. Templars are brought in as the mediators. We are your guys who you are supporting and just became knights. We are peacekeepers and bridge builders. We are changing the world. There's iron in those words. And also, Dwayne Boucher, where are you? Okay, Dwayne runs for us a thing called Operation Night Flight. We are facilitators working with the United States government. There's a thing called the Denton Amendment, and we are working with the United States government for missions around the world where they are sending planes on training missions. What we are doing is facilitating putting all kinds of goods on those planes and getting them over to places all over the world that are suffering Christians, starving Christians. We have literally delivered tons of valuable goods to starving and struggling Christians throughout the world. There's iron in those words. We are changing the world. Make no doubt about it. Those knights that you're supporting are changing the world. Now, I want to talk to the knights directly. And, where are the knights, by the way? Could you guys just raise your hand just so I know where you're at? Okay, I see one over there. Okay. Are we split apart for the most part? Okay. Okay, for those knights who have just joined, it's all about example. It's really all about example. And it's easy for me to be a Templar because my whole life I've been surrounded by Templar examples. And you got to start with Clay Kemmerer. I mean, how lucky am I to be following the best? I mean, the single best leader that I know. I'm following him. How lucky is that? So I have Clay as an example. But as I was growing up, the best man and the best woman that I knew growing up was my dad and my mom. And my mom would say about my dad, he was frustratingly honest. And to the point where he just couldn't have a good time. And my mom liked to have a good time. But she had a knack for just going into a crowd, finding the person who wouldn't look you in the eye, and by the night's end, she were best friends with that person. I'm surrounded by that example growing up. How can I not be a Templar? And now I lost them both. But now that I lost my mom, the best woman I know is my wife, Stephanie. Now she's an attorney, and she's more of a Templar than I'm ever going to be. She was actually, and Chuck is clapping because he loves her more than me. I know, you keep telling me. But she's an attorney, and she actually, when she was working for the state of Minnesota in the department that was helping and advocating for disabled folks, she found out that somebody in that department, a man, was being deported back to his country for a crime that she found out he actually didn't commit. Now, this was a man that was mentally challenged, really didn't understand what he was even being accused of, and the double whammy was he didn't speak English and he didn't have an interpreter. So he had admitted to something he actually didn't do. Now, being sent back, being deported to his country meant certain death and painful, slow death in this country. Stephanie called up the Attorney General of the state, and she worked it out so that this man not only didn't get deported, but he got put into the institution where he actually belonged, literally saving his life. I talk about opening doors for ladies. My wife is saving people. This is who I'm surrounded by. This is my Templar example. And when I lost my dad, now the best man that I know is my son, Nico. And I'm sorry, Nico, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit, son. I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. And I say that because Nico's not good at bragging. He's not good at that, and he doesn't like being in the spotlight. And so, sorry, kid. But I'm just telling you, Steph and I have talked about Nico, and we've come to the conclusion that although we would like to take credit for him just being good, we've decided that he was just born that way. He was just born that way. It wasn't us. you know. We might have had a little part of it, but let me tell you just a little bit about Nico. And Keith Larson, I so wish Bob Bolito was here. Well, Keith, where are you? Keith, I wish Bob Bolito was here because he would understand what I'm about to say here. We were having supper with the group, and I overheard Nico talking to his cousin, Olivia, who's actually here too. Olivia, where are you? Ah, she's right there. Okay, you were over by Nico, but now you're right. But those two were talking, and I thought I heard scholarship, and I thought I heard baseball. And I said, what? And I said, Nico, what did you just say? And he said, we were just talking about scholarships. And I said, what did you just say? And he looked at me and he said, I was offered a scholarship to play baseball for McAllister College. I said, what? You were offered a scholarship to play baseball? You didn't tell us? And he said, well, they weren't offering me much money, and I wanted to go to the University of Minnesota. And I said, Nico, that's not the point. This is bragging rights. This is a school that Kofi Annan went to. Come on, kid. You got to tell us these things. And he's looking at me with a blank look like, what planet are you from? He doesn't have that gene. I talk about humility. He lives it. And a little bit later, and I'm not done embarrassing you, Nico, but so a little bit later, you know, out of curiosity, how many of you have heard the basketball story? Just raise your hand if you've heard the basketball story. I've told that a few times. Okay, that's a few. I got a few more to go. That same school that I talked about with Nico, St. Vincent de Paul, well, he's a baseball stud, obviously. I just told you that, basically. But we were at tryouts in middle school. And I was sitting up in the stands while the boys were out trying out for the team. And I was sitting by one of the parents. I was sitting with all the parents, but I was sitting by one of the parents of Andy, who was this great athlete, but his dad was very nervous about Andy making the team. And he kept saying, geez, I hope he's going to play catch with Nico. I hope he's going to play catch with Nico. Is he going to play catch with Nico? He was just obsessed. And I thought, okay. And I looked around. I couldn't see Nico. I said, where is Nico? And we looked. We couldn't see him. He's over in the corner. He's playing catch with Spencer. And Spencer is an awkward kid. Spencer's an awkward kid. And he's obviously never played baseball before in his life. And I'm sure he borrowed the glove he was using. But Nico knows that he can throw it into Spencer's glove, and he knows that whatever Spencer throws back, he's probably going to be able to catch it. Nico's more interested in Spencer not looking bad in front of his parents than he is in himself making the team. Well, part of that is because he knows he's going to make the team, granted. But later then, we have a game, and it comes down to the end. We're ahead, and there's one out to go. And Spencer is in right field, and Nico is playing center field, and a ball is hit right to Spencer. Now, all we need is one out, and the game is over. And Nico rushes over, and plenty of time to make the catch. And he starts doing one of these things. You know, he looks at the ball, looks at Spencer, looks at the ball, looks at Spencer. And I know what's going through his head. He's thinking, do I make this catch and end the game, or do I allow Spencer the opportunity to be a hero? And he backed off. And I'd like to tell you that Spencer made the catch and they carried him off on his shoulders, but the ball didn't even come close to Spencer's glove. Didn't even come close. Nico picked it up and he threw it in, and we still won the game. But Nico won the moment. And for all the times he has ended games with a pitch because he was a pitcher, or all the times that he's won a game with that last hit to win a game, and all those acrobatic catches he's made, given us pleasure throughout the years, I have never, ever been more proud of him than I was at that moment. That's my son. That's the example that I am surrounded by. So how can I not be a Templar? I mean, I'm surrounded by Templars. The point here to the Knights is not to surround yourself with the kind of people that I've been able to have surrounded myself with. The point, of course, is that you are the example. You now are the example. The bar has been raised for you. You are no longer a spectator. You are a participant in this game. Now that you're a Templar, you're a participant in this game. Now, Yeah, you know, I yelled out last night, Kurt Orcutt. In fact, I'm going to do it again. Kurt, what's a Templar? That's exactly right. That's exactly right. When you knights leave tonight, you're going to go out into this world and you're going to call yourselves Templars. Got a question for you. Did you thank your waitstaff? Did you look them in the eye and thank them for this incredible food that we had tonight, this incredible dessert? Did you thank them? Knights and dames and new knights, our mentor was not ambiguous when he said, "He who is first shall be last, and he who is last shall be first." What they do, we are. We're servants. When you look your waitstaff in the eye and thank them, and with the same deference and respect that you would show your mother, then you can call yourself a Templar. One more question for you. Do you know the name of the lady that empties the trash at your office? Once again, I heard a yes, there's a Templar. Once again, our Lord, our mentor with a capital M, was not ambiguous when he said, "Whatsoever you do to the least of my children, you do it unto me." When you can tell me the name of the person who empties the trash at your office and the name of all of her children, then you can call yourself a Templar. Now, what happens when you're at your local club and the game comes on and it starts and the Star-Spangled Banner starts and you're with your buddies and you're talking? When you stop talking and you get up and you put your hand on your heart, patriotism is not a thing for Templars. It's an infectious disease. When you do that, when you stand up, put your hand on your heart, stop talking, and you wait till that glorious song is done, and after the third time you've done that, one of your buddies stands up and does exactly the same thing, then you can call yourself a Templar. Now, I want each of you to know that on your table, if somebody would take the initiative to look in the center of your table, there is a little velvet bag. Somebody open it up. Somebody on each table, please open it up. Inside you will find 8 Templar mites. And I want each of you to take one, not just the knights and dames, not just the new knights and dames, but everybody who's in this room tonight. Please take a mite. Take the time now to hand those out, please, and dispense them. Now, those of you who have heard me tell the basketball story know exactly where I'm going with this thing. Those Templar mites, what I want you to do, even if you're not a Templar, put it in your pocket or purse to remind you of what we're talking about tonight. And for you Templars and for you dames, your knights, put it in your pocket or purse to remind you that you're a Templar, remind you of who you are. The point of that mite is to take it with you. And whenever you have the opportunity to see or be Christ, and what I mean by that is if you see somebody doing something great, come up to them and give them the mite. Tell them you're a Templar, give them the mite, and say, "I saw what you were doing, pass it on." If you have an opportunity to help somebody, do the same thing. Help them, but then give them the mite and say, "If you have the opportunity to help somebody, please do so and pass this on." The idea is that everybody in this room get that mite out there doing the work of the Lord, so that when we leave tonight, that mite is out there. And on some night, when I'm stuck in a snowbank in the middle of Minnesota, and somebody comes up and pushes me out of that snowbank, and I open my window, and they put through a mite, and they say, "This is a Templar mite. I want you to do what I've done and help and pass this on," then I can finally call myself a Templar. And the circle will be closed. Carl Curitan, where are you? Carl, could you stand, please? Now, when I was talking about Nico, I said, I'm sorry, son, I'm embarrassing you. I'm not going to embarrass Carl. Carl's a big deal. Carl speaks publicly for lots of folks. He speaks internationally. He's known for it. When you have a telephone conversation with him, you feel like if you don't write it down, you're missing something. At St. King Charles the Martyr, when I was officiating over there, Carl, right as I was leaving to go to my hotel room, Carl pulled me aside and said, Grand Prior, would you pray for me, please? Carl, that touched me. And I said, Carl, I will pray for you if you pray for me. And that's the last thing I said that night, and that's the last thing Carl said to me that night. That touched me. Now, thank you. And now, Don Robinson knows this, but not a lot of you do. I tortured him for an hour or two. In a previous life, I used to front a band and write music and write songs. And what he did inspired me to do that, and I thought, tonight, I'm going to torture you guys for just a couple minutes. Now, what I didn't think about was that I wouldn't have a voice left at this point, so you're going to have to give me a little leeway. But as Ryan knows, who also writes songs, if you play your own song, nobody has any idea what it's supposed to sound like. So, Thomas, could you, yeah. So I'm just going to play you a song that I think is appropriate for tonight. Good God, Ryan, this is a Gibson. It's probably worth more than my college education. It's called Operator Air. Okay, bear with me. It's just a couple minutes and we'll be done. Pray for me. 'Cause Lord knows I need it. Pray for me. I can't do it all alone. Help him see that I am in need of the Spirit. All I ask you, all I'm asking of you is pray for me. Lift me up, 'cause I feel myself falling. Going down further each time. There's no doubt will help you hear me calling. So come on, press your hands close together with mine. For those who ask, a small consolation for me. Well, I'm asking now with my eyes to the ground. The world looks so different down on bended knee. Pray for me, 'cause Lord knows I need it.
all alone. Help him see I am in need of the Spirit. All I ask you to do, all I'm asking of you is pray for me. All I ask you to do, and all I'm asking of you is pray for me.
Okay. Yeah, pray for me. Rami. Yeah, pray for me, but pray for our ex-com. Pray for all of our knights and dames, and pray for our beloved order. That we might go forward not just calling ourselves Templars, but being and believing, exempling what we are, soldiers of Christ and servants of man. Knights and dames, sempre avante, always forward. Could everybody please stand? And those knights and dames who are out in the audience, please, with me, our Templar motto. Non nobis domine non nobis, sed nomine tuo de gloriam. Not unto us, Lord, not unto us, but to your name give the glory. This is what the Templars said before we went into battle. This is what we say before we go outside and go back into battle. You can sit. Please sit. And I want to thank you again for the honor and the onus of being your Grand Prior. I want to thank the Priory of St. Matthew, and I know, Don, you're going to do the same thing, but that's okay. Redundancy in that case is a good thing. So thank you again, and I'm going to see you all in Long Beach, California. Thank you.